AA Conference-Approved Literature by Steve K. The term conference-approved relates to literature and audiovisual material that is published by AA World Services, Inc. and has been approved by conference for this purpose. The term has no relation to material not published by GSO. It does not imply conference disapproval of other material about AA. A great deal of literature helpful to alcoholics is published by others, and AA does not try to tell any individual member what he or she may or may not read. See service material from the General Service Office. AA also produces non-conference approved literature, such as The Grapevine, which is published by AA Grapevine, Inc. Examples of Grapevine publications are the book The Language of the Heart, which consists of Bill W.'s Grapevine writings, and also the AA Preamble is a Grapevine, Inc. publication. The General Service Conference recognizes the Grapevine as the International Journal of Alcoholics Anonymous. The only reason it's not conference approved is because it's published monthly, and the conference meets annually, and therefore it is not practically possible. My personal concern is with AA members stating that only conference-approved literature should be read out at meetings. This is a misunderstanding of the term at best, and outright dogmatism at worst. As stated above, group members are free to read from any literature they choose to, and there is no tradition or GSO guidance that states otherwise. AA group members should also be aware that neither GSO or intergroup governs individual groups' decisions. Ultimately, the group conscience decides its own format and practices. In my view, it is not healthy to unreasonably censor what members read out at meetings, as to do so is based upon fear and prevents group members' right to freedom of expression. Diversity of opinion and views is a good thing, as we can learn from each other's differences and experiences. Also, AA should never be rigid in its outlook and be prepared to change and evolve when necessary as new understanding and insights become clear. The founder members from the fellowship were humble enough to realize that we know only a little, and they learned from experience as they went along, and envisaged an evolving AA. Dogmatism within AA was being warned about nearly 30 years ago. At a talk given by the then General Service Manager Bob Pearson to the General Service Conference in 1986, he had this to say, quote, "If you were to ask me what is the greatest danger facing AA today, I would have to answer the growing rigidity, the increasing demand for absolute answers to nitpicking questions, pressure for GSO to enforce our traditions, screening alcoholics at closed meetings, prohibiting non-conference-approved literature, in other words, banning books, laying more and more rules on groups and members." End quote. The fellowship of AA is based upon liberal and spiritual principles which suggest acceptance and tolerance of each other's differences. The primary purpose of the group, as stated in Tradition 5, is one of carrying a message of recovery to the alcoholic who still suffers. And it's this common goal that binds those differences together. My experience of alcoholism and recovery from it are unique to me, as is my message to others who may or may not identify. How I communicate it and the literature I use to help me in doing so should be my choice. In addition, my understanding and experience of the 12 steps is personal to me. Chapter: Traditions. Tradition 1 calls for unity, not uniformity, and states that, quote, "We believe there isn't a fellowship on earth which lavishes more devoted care upon its individual members. Surely there is none which more jealously guards the individual's right to think, talk, and act as he wishes. No AA can compel another to do anything. Nobody can be punished or expelled. Our 12 steps to recovery are suggestions. The 12 traditions, which guarantee AA's unity, contain not a single don't. They repeatedly say, we ought, but never, you must. End quote. To summarize the core principle of Tradition 1, I would suggest that the individual's right to freedom of expression should be cherished, as long as it is not harmful towards the welfare of the group as a whole. Tradition 2 suggests that ultimately the group conscience decides its own format and practices. However, an informed group conscience should take into consideration all viewpoints as well as application of the relevant traditions and the principles they contain. It is also worthwhile considering any previous guidance by conference/GSO in relation to the issue, although the AA group is not obligated to follow it. Tradition 3 states that, quote, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking, end quote. The program of recovery is a suggestion only. Members are free not to read the Big Book or practice the 12 steps if they so wish, and the program of AA should not be forced upon its members. Tradition 3 aims to be fully inclusive of all members, regardless of differences, and warns against dogmatic rules born of fear and prejudice, which are barriers to recovery for all who want it. A quote from Bill W. Quote, in AA, we are supposed to be bound together in the kinship of a universal suffering. Therefore, the full liberty to practice any creed or principle or therapy should be a first consideration. Hence, let us not pressure anyone with individual or even collective views. Let us instead accord to each other the respect that is due to every human being as he tries to make his way towards the light. Let us always try to be inclusive rather than exclusive. Let us remember that each alcoholic among us is a member of AA, so long as he or she so declares, end quote. And further, quote, in no circumstances should we feel that Alcoholics Anonymous is the know-all and do-all of alcoholism, end quote. Bill said, referring to the work of other organizations engaged in research, alcohol education, and rehabilitation. The above quotes by Bill W. are taken from his speech to the General Service Conference held in New York City in April 1965. About the author, Stephen K. Steve K. has been a member of AA for 24 years and lives in Cheshire, which is in the northwest region of England. He would describe himself as a humanist agnostic. His home group is the Macclesfield Saturday Morning AA Group, and he regularly chairs the meeting. He has a background in advice and counseling work, mainly in the areas of mental health and social welfare law. Steve enjoys swimming and going to the gym regularly at the local leisure center and hill walking in the Cheshire countryside. He's recently started a recovery blog, 12-Step Philosophy, and has self-published an ebook entitled The 12-Step Philosophy of Alcoholics Anonymous, an interpretation by Steve K. The third edition is available both as an ebook and a paperback at Lulu. The original print version of this article, AA Conference-Approved Literature by Steve K., may be found on the website aabeyondbelief.com in the Steps and Traditions section, dated December 9, 2015. This audio presentation was recorded February 10, 2017. For more stories, articles, and podcasts, please visit our YouTube or SoundCloud channels. Just search for AA Beyond Belief.